agenda. Excellent. We do have a recording device, and as part of that, we are being live streamed. Is there any announced urgent business today? Fantastic. Okay, in that case, I'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes from the 15th of October extraordinary meeting, which is on page 5. I'll just do a quick page turn for accuracy. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Oh, fantastic. Anyone, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. You are happy to move that that's a true and correct record. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Davies. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Abstentions? No. And just doing another page turn on those minutes to see if there's any matters arising that aren't going to be covered in today's agenda. Page 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Fantastic. Okay. We'll move to walking and riding strategy, which is on page 10. And I will welcome you to the table, Andrew. Lovely to have you back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a presentation to seek your endorsement to publicly notify the draft walking and riding strategy and associated action plan. I've been in front of you guys a couple of times with workshops, so I think you're fairly well aware. It's a culmination of a couple of years of work from 2022, picked up again in August this year. A pretty good iterative process. Over the last couple of months, I've been out talking to stakeholders, including the community committees, and I've seen some of you at those over the last 2 or 3 weeks or month or so, and had a few sideline chats with stakeholders as well, and my door's always open, and I'd communicated that with the stakeholders a couple of months ago as well. So the strategy would provide a long-term and strategic vision for walking and riding in the district. And I guess just to highlight conversations I've had with that engagement, the value of the strategy is it's showing that the council is serious. While we might not do a lot in actions, it's going to be of value and benefit to the wider community and those community groups that are engaged in on the ground activity. So some very good strong benefits and value with the strategy. It's not one of those things that hopefully doesn't just sit on the shelf and holds up other strategy. So and I guess just to finish it off and pick up on what was briefly discussed before the meeting started. So once this has been endorsed, we'll go for public engagement starting hopefully at the end of the week if it's endorsed. Assuming there's no hiccups, and I don't anticipate any, we'll look to make that go live on Thursday late afternoon, and it'll go through till 16th of 5 p.m. Monday the 16th of December, and then over the Christmas New Year period and through January, I'll review any feedback that we receive, and with a view that if anyone wants to speak to their feedback, we'll have a extraordinary meeting sometime in February perhaps. And then with a view that would endorse the strategy in March, and if not, then at that extraordinary meeting. So I'm happy to take any queries or questions.
Great, thanks, Andrew. And as you mentioned in your introduction, this is probably information that we're all fairly au fait with, given that we have had some workshops and that it has been presented to the community committees that we're all part of. So any questions or queries in regards to the draft walking and riding strategy?
Just want to thank you, Andrew, for picking up on the Harden Library as an option as well to receive feedback. I know the Hiranui Community Committee were really grateful that you added that.
Okay.
And I think, as you say, it's been a good iterative process. People have had an opportunity around this table, but also out in our community committees to become aware of what you're doing. And you know, I think it's invaluable, and I know there's quite a lot of horse riders and so on out our way, and we've got a lot of paper roads. So, you know, with a bit of luck, that will also get people's interest going and enable councillors to look at those sort of things as well. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you for those comments, Karen, and it's great to see that we've been so responsive to our community committees in the process. Any other questions, queries, or? I think that would probably signal that you've done a fantastic job in the pre-consultation to get it to this draft.
Well, I guess I want to acknowledge the work that Nicola had done in 2022 as well. So it's not just me.
Rightly so. Thank you for that. Okay, well, it seems that we are ready then to consider the officer recommendations on page 10, which is asking us to endorse the walking and riding strategy for public engagement and the action plan, and also give authorisation to Judith as Chief Strategy and Community Officer for minor drafting and editing and layout. So is there someone of a mind to move those? Are you happy to move them as they're written, Councillor Armstrong?
Yes.
Fantastic. And someone to second those recommendations. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. Any further questions, queries, discussion? Anyone wishing to speak for or against? We're a quiet bunch this morning. We're confident. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye.
Right.
Against? Abstentions? Carried. Fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. That was very fast and painless, wasn't it?
Now I'm wondering why we started at 9 o'clock.
I was just thinking, oh, that's all good. That's all good. You can never tell though how things are going.
Perhaps the next report could be stretched out a little bit.
I know that Vanessa's been very, very busy with her age-friendly research and surveying. So page 42 of the agenda, and it was popped in there as a decision item, but it is in fact an information item. So we'll be receiving this information from you, Vanessa. Welcome back to the table.
Thank you.
I know you're very passionate about age-friendly projects.
Didn't expect to be up so quickly, but that's okay.
Take your time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me again. To complement the report, just have a small presentation that I'll work through in a second, just to sort of highlight some of the key points that have come out. So yes, so just the age-friendly survey. So I just like to, just being an information report, to take it as read, and I'll work through the presentation, and then if there's any questions we can have a look at those maybe at the end. So yeah, that's our little cover. So that's it. I was quite humbled by the amount of returns that we actually got. So 213 surveys were received by the extension of 30th of September. So originally, survey was launched sort of the tail end of July, start of August, and was going to go from up through to the 30th of August. I then brought the steering group together to have a look at the interim results, which I had mentioned at the previous Strategy and Community Committee, how it had a little bit through by then, and as a group, we just felt that we needed a bit more time and to do some more targeted communication through our communities. So in the end, as I say, 213, 120 of those were paper copies, which I ended up inputting. And as you can see, that's 56% of the returns. So 93 online surveys were received. So this is just a shot of our branding. So that's just sort of the top that was on all the advertising. And then just depending on the method we were using, it might have just been altered slightly to make it bigger, make it smaller, that kind of thing. But we tried to use the same colours, our bright future together, the same picture, just so there was that consistency and it was familiar to people. Engagement. Yeah, this was a bit of a fun experience for me. It was really the first time that I've gone into something so in depth. Normally it's been a space where you just focus on one area and that's it. So that picture there is of the Amberley Library. So the staff down there were amazing and created a display that had a box for the returns to go in and copies. And then as you can see, a whole variety of books relating to age-friendly space. So we went above and beyond what I had anticipated. I was just thinking it would be, you know, the box would be in a corner and that would be about it. Apologies that the font's a little bit small, but tried to cram in as much in there as possible. So that just outlines the difference for the spaces that we use. So I overtook the office reception out the front, and that posters sort of everywhere and anywhere, and including on the big TV, which was really good. Utilised our service centres and libraries. They were fantastic. Also used the Harden Library as well, which got quite a few replies through. Cheviot, Colvin, or the Mary Service Centre, Hampton Springs, and obviously our Amberley team. Amberley team were amazing. They would just send me a message every few days saying, hey, you better come in and get the box. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, there's 10 surveys, and I was coming there with bundles of 20 or 25. So they came through regularly from our service centres. And then there's just a range of other methods that we used, or I used, including some time with Compass. So they're really keen to have me back to talk about the results at some point.
Oh, fantastic.
Which is great. They're really intrigued and keen. But obviously wanted to wait till the results had come here first. Social media, and you may think, well, it doesn't really fit the age bracket that we're talking to, but in actual fact, we actually got a lot of online surveys back once it'd been out online. So there was a bit of correlation there. And I even had a chat with our property team to share the survey with our social housing tenants. Whether they chose to send in a survey or not, I'm not quite sure, but just wanted to let them know that it was out there as well. Yeah, it's quite a variety of methods, emails, face-to-face, social media, including 2 Facebook videos that got quite a bit of coverage as well. The next slide just sort of shows a couple of those. So on the left is just a sort of a shot of the surveys and reception. The middle one is the Amberley Friendship Club, and the other one is a screenshot of myself and the mayor with a video that she had some words to. So that one got about 4,500, and then there was one with the lovely manager of the Amberley Farmers Market, and that was about 5,500 views.
Wow.
So that was really lovely. So she went, Nikki went, you know, really out of her comfort zone to just talk about how she was the manager of the farmers market, swims at the Amberley swimming pool, and this is a great opportunity for people to share their thoughts. So yeah, just wanted to show some of the different methods. Now we're getting into the stuff that kind of drives our team a little bit, so the demographics. So I just wanted to share where the majority, where the surveys originated from, the replies, and also the age bracket. So on the left is a pie graph indicating, what I've done, sorry, I should go back a step. What I've done is I've actually grouped all the locations, because in the survey it was like, where did you live? Embley Beach, Hannah Springs, that kind of thing. So rather than having a really long list of all the locations, just decided to group it into each of our wards, just to make it a little bit easier to digest. So the South Ward had 112 replies. 99 of those came from Embley, which isn't surprising given the explosion that's happened around here with Embley Country Estate and a lot of people downsizing. East Ward returned 23 and the West Ward 74. So Hannah Springs, so it's the top three, but Embley with 99, Hannah Springs 22, and Harden came back with 19. And I contribute the library to a majority of those replies as well. Age bracket. Spartan, those aged 75 to 79. They were the winners, if you'd like to call it, with 51 replies. And then the 70 to 74 was 50, and the 65 to 69-year-olds were 49. And as you can see, way over on the right-hand side, there was a couple of brave 90-plus-year-olds who decided to share some thoughts as well, which was lovely. And there was 3 that didn't actually indicate their age. So I've just chosen to share a couple of the questions because there was, including the 3 open-ended comment questions, it was like 30. So if I shared all 30 in terms of the results, we'd be here till probably Christmas. But in the appendices to the report with the survey results, there's actually a lot more detail and a lot more graphs that you can have a wee look through. So this one is under the respect and social inclusion question. And I was asked, I feel valued as an older person in my community. So it was really heartening to see how much felt in the positive, either totally agree or agree. So in total, that's 145 replies. But there was also 38 that didn't answer that question. So it's hard to say where they might sort of fit into the scope of things. And also 20 with no opinion. So whether they're feeling kind of happy with where they are in the community or just literally just had no opinion on it. It's a high number. It would be nice to see it more heading towards one of the ones on the left, so to build a bit of a better picture, but it is what it is. But still really encouraging to see that people are, our over 60s wives are feeling valued, because often we hear contrary to that. So the next slide is for the communication and technology section. How confident are you using technology to access online services? So for me, this was putting a bit of a myth to bed that older people don't know technology or don't like to use it, because as you can see, very confident and confident totaled 145 replies, and in that confidence space is 94 people. And it even showing with the amount of online replies that came through, the 94 so in total. So it really does prove that our older community, to a point, are familiar, understand it, confident, which is really, is really good. We often need to believe otherwise.
Through you, Madam Chair, can I just make a quick point?
Yeah, sure you can.
I was interested that where you looked at the possibility of providing technological assistance, people wanted that on a one-to-one basis. And I felt that felt slightly counterintuitive, because if you're feeling a little bit lonely, there's an opportunity to go to small classes where you would meet people with similar interests and similar abilities. And that was an opportunity to make more contacts with local people who are in a similar position to yourself. So, although there is that considerable confidence there, for those who aren't confident, wanted one-to-one rather than a group situation, which could have widened their circle of friends and contacts. Just as an observation, not really as a
sure. Through the chair, the Embley Library and the team actually have a, I believe it's called Stepping Up classes, and they run small groups. So they do have that coming through, but they do find it can be quite hard to give that focus because everybody's level is a little bit different. So they're still continuing with that, but we're just looking for opportunities that might bring a few more people out of their isolated space. And in the past, and I'm going back, gosh, over 10 years, our youth team actually did tech labs, and they went down really, really well and had that one-on-one. So I had the back of my mind sort of an intergenerational kind of project. And I've been talking with the new community connections librarian, Karen, down at the library, and yeah, she's really keen to explore this a little bit further too. And I take on board what you're saying about that one-on-one space compared to that bringing them together. It's sort of chicken egg almost situation, but just trying to look at other opportunities. And even their technology drop-in sessions where you can book a time with the staff, they're finding that people are there a lot longer than their 15 minutes. So, just looking at different things.
I also reflected on that, and I wondered if it was just simply that whole difference in, where people were at and what their specific needs were around technology, and I was aware of that that kind of youth older person partnering that had worked really well. And then I reflected on that, and I thought, now that we've got also a lot of our older people who are feeling confident, that might be an opportunity to pair them up with other older persons as well, and raise that whole feeling of value that we just talked about on that previous slide. So lots of opportunities that come from this. But Councillor Armstrong.
It's just following up on your point, Tom. I think sometimes people, if they're on their own or one-to-one, can feel less concerned about asking a dumb question, because people's level of expertise and knowledge is very variable. And I think the other thing that's been found when I've tried to run even small groups of people is often people have different devices. So you have to there's so many different types of devices that you always have to completely customise. Otherwise, people can't always translate what's been guided to how that would apply to their particular setup, So I think a mixture of things is really, really good. And I really like the idea of having peer-to-peer support, people in their age group who are confident will probably have a good way of, connecting with their peers, because often it's about keeping in contact with children, grandchildren, that kind of thing, and they'll have the shared sort of motivation perhaps too.
Yeah, great comments. Really interesting results though.
It is really interesting, and I really enjoyed reading and dissecting the communication and technology questions, because I also asked, would you like to improve your skills? And it was an even split to the reply. So you could take that those that are not confident or not at all confident want to learn, but also those that are confident or even very confident want to learn more. So it was an interesting one. So, but it just really made me think that, you always hear, they always don't know what they're doing when it comes to computers. I mean, I even had my godson say to me, Vanessa, give me your phone, I'll sort it out. And I went, no, it's my phone, leave it alone. So I think we really do need to change our mindset on what we think is happening in our community and what truly is, compared to what truly is happening. So,
and the with rather than the for, because I had that same experience this weekend with a new phone actually. It's like, it's actually not terribly helpful if you do it for me, you need to do it with me so that I get that muscle memory.
So looking forward to exploring that space a little bit more as time goes on. So so the next section is just some observations that were noted by the steering group. So once the survey closed and I had a bit of a chance to input all those rogue ones that came through from the service centres and things like that, brought the group together, and they looked through all the results, including the opening questions. And as you will see in the report, there's some observations that were noted during that time against the majority of the 8 domains. So those sort of were just 4 that I just pulled out that kind of I don't know, resonated a little bit and sort of fitted in with perhaps what we can achieve, or some solutions to what we can achieve fairly quickly. So as it says there, if you're connected with your community and have someone who can introduce you to different opportunities available, you are fine. But if you're new, it's much harder. So it was a comment by one of our members that from the steering group, that now that she's retired, she can only clean her house so much and do so much gardening before she sort of goes, oh, enough's enough. So she said she almost wants somebody to not take it by the hand, but say, hey, I'm part of the walking group, why don't you join me on Monday and come and meet the rest of the crew? It might be something you're keen on. So, but she said, if you've already connected in your community, like you may have been here for a period of time, or you know somebody who's doing something, it's a little bit easier. So it's like, how can we how can we make that easier for people, which led into the question, how do you find out about all the groups and activities on offer? Because we started giving her some ideas at the sort of the catch up, and she's like, well, where do I find out about this? Well, where do I find out about this? Where do I find out about this? So that sort of indicated that there's so much out there, but unless you know where to look, you don't actually know what's going on. So it's like, how can we help with that as well?
With that first point there, with the newness and it making things more difficult, is that something that that welcoming communities could sort of pick up on, with, you know, the bringing in of new residents who are, you know, perhaps moving in from, I don't know, even rural into urban, or and from other parts of New Zealand?
That's a really good point. I haven't actually shared the survey results much further than my manager and with you guys today in the steering group. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems to fit with the brief of what welcoming communities is. And I'm sure that I can have a chat with Natalie to see if she's got some thoughts about that. Because as you know, it's not all about the migrants who are arriving in our community.
Exactly.
It is about newcomers, whether they're from Auckland or whether it's from Cheviot to Emberley. So yeah. Yeah, just
Sorry,
that's all right.
I had a few conversations with people in the community from this demographic, and interestingly, they've all noted that there are a lot of little subgroups, and particularly in Amberley for this age group, but they're not particularly cohesive. And you did right, it is a matter of actually kind of coming up with some kind of platform or avenue of actually connecting somehow some together, which is unusual for a small community. Maybe a conversation with the Amberley NZ, or even, I don't know whether it would be feasible for us to perhaps put something on our website, maybe just a list of those groups, or some form of somewhere easy for these people to go so they can actually realise what it actually is out there in the community. Or even if we got someone in this group as a champion to, I don't know, an idea, but there are things out there for them. Not enough, personally, I don't believe, but there are things out there, but a lot of them don't know where they are and who they are and what they are. So it kind of fits in exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I agree, because often you'll see something advertised and it says to contact Joe Bloggs, but you don't know who Joe Bloggs is unless you know somebody who knows somebody, kind of thing. So yeah, okay.
Dave.
Doesn't matter whether it's elderly people or younger people or middle age, and I'm a bit worried that I'm in the demographics of older people now, I see. But coming in, you have to actually make the effort to join an organisation or do it, because the locals won't do it. So maybe we have to, the organisations, communicate to them that they need to somehow welcome these people and all that, the influences of the organisations. You know, with Daring, and I've always found it in different groups, different areas, people have five or eight friends, and five's probably, that's it. So it's no different to a club. They don't need a bigger group of people. So if you're new coming in, you have to make the effort, because the locals won't make the effort. So I suppose what I'm saying is, for these organisations, we need to encourage them to bring the people in. So it's got, you know,
Well, maybe it's a two-way thing.
it's a two-way thing, you know, if you're new to an area, you have to make, I always say to my migrants, anyone coming in, if I don't make the effort, if you're a new person coming in, it doesn't happen. And I can tell you that from my own experience. I've been here 20 years, but I'm still a migrant. That's why I joined Lions, because if I didn't, I wouldn't know the locals, because it's just, I don't know what it is, it's a Canterbury thing, I've never seen it. But the organisations need to be there, pulling out. So it's a two-way. We can't hold everyone's hand, but
Through the chair, I fully agree with you, and actually had probably half a dozen people that actually replied along the same lines. You have to make the effort. If you don't go out yourself, you won't meet people. So there were those that replied that said the same. And I have to say, the Welcoming Club, the Emily Friendship Club, out of word of life, there's a minimum of 2 new visitors each month when I've gone along. The previous month there were 6. So their members are reaching out to their friends who they think that might be interested. So they're starting to do that really well, and their membership is increasing. And the only way they have resignations is if their members are actually going into retirement villages or homes in Christchurch, or they've only had one that actually resigned for other reasons. So their intake is just on the positive. But yeah, the steering group was in the same mindset as well, that you actually have to put yourself out there a little bit. But sometimes it's also how to take that first step. And yeah, there are a lot of groups, but perhaps they're not targeting their group in the right way.
For the elderly people that are lonely, or that is your district nurses and your medical centres are the 2 places that you will probably have the most direct contact with that 75, 70 plus. Because they're the ones, you know, and they're the ones that see the problems.
Absolutely, and it's coming through really strongly when Natalie has her FOEs. At the moment, she's just working with the Amberley Medical Centre and the Cheviot Medical Centre, and she often comes around and has a chat with me afterwards to let me know what's happening in that space. I am, as part of the next steps of the space, working on filling some gaps in the steering group, which includes a district nurse. So just need to connect.
I'll give you a live example of, we give our Waikato Lions Club give out firewood to elderly people in need. And when you were deciding who to give it, it become real political. They were hopeless, they were this, they were that. So I instigated that we don't have anything to do with that. It's the district nurse that does it. She tells us who, and then it takes the politics out. That's been a really good way of actually getting to know who actually needs help, who doesn't have transport, who doesn't, you might say transport wasn't a problem, but transport in the West Ward for elderly people is a problem, like Chili's license. It's just been held together with the stick and plaster with the community car. That's reliant on a small number of committed, good people driving riding community cars and to rely on me, I don't know, how sustainable that is, but
Hopefully, Very, given that, you hit the result here, that more people want to volunteer or volunteer more. So it's just about how we harness those abilities to fill those needs, I think, yeah. Councillor Armstrong, you've been very patient.
That's all right. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to say a few things. I'm on the steering group, and I think the steering group itself, even the fact that it exists, has led to some connections. Like we've got the manager of the retirement village is on the group as well, and so even that has got connections between the Amberley Friendship Group. Welcome. Yeah. Like even that has got some connections happening. But I also wanted to say, look, I think the welcoming communities is a really appropriate link here. And I think they've probably done, gathering resources together to get out to people and so on. And I think that's an obvious thing. I also am aware that REA's involved. I think it's neighbourhood support, is it? That could be another really good connection here, because that's about us saying to people, go and welcome your new neighbours, make that connection and encourage people to do that. And it's not always easy when you move. I know a bit like you, Dave, 20 years ago, I came to an area, didn't know anybody at all. And even if you're motivated and you're willing to reach out to people, it's still tricky when you don't know anybody. And, it takes quite a bit of, I suppose, energy and confidence and stuff to do that, and motivation. And if you're a shy person, it can be quite hard to make that first reaching out. And I think that can contribute to isolation as well. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I don't know if this is appropriate, whether we can have a system within our, given that council will be aware when properties are changing hands, whether we can do anything about just posting out an information pack or something, or a link even to resources. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Because we'll know when properties are changing hands. I know that we have to be careful about using or misusing people's information, but could there be just a pamphlet or whatever that summarises, all of the groups and so on that are in that particular area, or even in our area, the first newsletter could go out and, the rates pack or something, make it easy, but just give people some leads of what's available when they first come. It's just a thought. I don't know if those dots can get joined or not, but.
Yeah, through you, this is something that we've been talking about forever. And I thought there was something in place. No, because we have talked about even something that just talked about what the council services are. So when the transfer station's open, what day is rubbish day, some of those real basic things.
Could be something all encompassing, really.
So with the move to Dartscape and Intino, that gives us a really good opportunity to do a bit more in that kind of area. So that's an app that you have on your phone, and that you have to sign up to it, but then we just push out notifications on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something. Okay, well,
I think it would be worthwhile having a look at the notifications of properties that have changed hands through the rates team, because I'm not quite sure how timely those notifications are.
No, we have been talking about this welcome pack for a long time. I need to follow up with Ria as to what's holding this up.
And I guess, like the timeliness, even if it's a couple of months later, it has allowed a settling period. And then I'm even thinking, because we as councillors get the record of sales of properties, and it's not a huge list for the South Ward anyway. But
I think some of it can also be, though, people who are, you know, embedded within the community, but they have a change in circumstances. So they either
Mhm.
they retire or they lose a partner. And so then there's that group of people as well that often get quite isolated and adjusting to a change in circumstances in their lives. And so, you know, there's that group of people as well.
Yeah. Vanessa.
I was going to suggest that, and you could perhaps have a chat to Roy Myers, who runs the Residents Association, who in working in the interests of the residents, he might be in a position to feature something in the hotline. It's complimentary.
It's a great idea. Tom.
I know there are privacy issues, particularly with the record of sales and things like that. I would have thought the obvious people to contact is actually to have packs available and give them to the real estate agents, and the real estate agents can then, anyone who buys a house or even anyone who rents a house, they've got direct contact with them, and that could be their welcome to your new home, and here's a pack of all the things that are going on. And if they all had small supplies of packs, the bang, you've got them on the day that they move in. So as a thought.
Yeah, that is a thought. Vanessa.
Subsequent to that, I wonder whether we could be making it too, I mean, if I'm going to simplify it, the first point of call for any new resident will always be a council website, will it not? Would it just
I
be?
think that would,
No?
I don't know, I think that would be an assumption. I'm not sure that it would be.
Okay.
a first
Well,
point.
just-
But certainly you're purchasing, the majority of sales or in fact rentals would go through agents, so that would be a sort of pathway.
So,
But I think you know, we want to cover our bases, so having something on the council website as well as yeah. And that's exactly how, Vanessa, you went about getting so many people to respond to the survey, is that it was everywhere. So we kind of need to, you know, replicate that it's everywhere with this information. Dave?
yeah, through chair, rather, PAC sounds time and sounds money, so I don't like that idea. But maybe it's a pamphlet that is designed with websites, you know, with links on it that can be given to the real estate, or can be put in the library, or can be put in the, you know, in the council, so it's, you know, it doesn't have to be done. Just, yeah, you know, just a pamphlet of new to Amberley, or it's save money again, new to Hiranui. So we're not trying to be specific with the different contact people. But I know in the West Ward, when we've had migrants come in, we've done up packs, but that's something a bit more specific, but we don't want to get into that.
And I think one of the challenges would be keeping it up to date with contact people, because I know that's something that has been difficult even, you know, on websites.
When I arrived here, actually, something turned up in our letterbox, and it was not double-sided, it was a trifold, bifold brochure.
Yeah.
And I think actually moving forward, a collaborative effort with Amberley NZ, Amberley District Residents Association, supported by council and those groups. I know that ADRA financially are probably in a position that they could support it, but collectively those groups could put something similar together like that. So I would definitely contact Roy Myers and see what he's got to offer.
Wanted to add to that?
I mean, that sounds like an excellent idea, and I'm thinking each area will have its own mechanism of communication. I know that Paul Hunley, for instance, does a pamphlet for our area, which he updates regularly on all of the groups and contacts and stuff. And obviously that's available through the library. So each area will have its own kind of mechanism of communicating that, I'm sure. And the local libraries are probably a good contact point to be a conduit for that information as well.
Yeah. And I would suggest that perhaps in Amberley and surrounds it is perhaps the hotline, and perhaps in Hanmer, maybe it's the Pinky. Yeah. So those publications. Yeah, great ideas to try to bridge that gap.
Yes, so just the final observation then was we have a large pool of people who either want to volunteer or volunteer more. So yeah, there's some opportunities there. Already have one staff member who's you'll know Rima. Yeah, she's looking for more volunteers for her sort of weed buster program and other native plantings and things. So we've been talking a little bit more about that. So hopefully I can get her to the Emily Friendship Club in the new year as well. Yeah, just help support her find some of these pockets as well. And then just final slide, next steps. So there's just 3 that are quite important, including a couple of others in the actual report. So yes, I'd like to increase the numbers of the steering group, not by a huge amount, but we do have some gaps. So as I mentioned before, looking to connect with district nurse to see about her availability to be in interest for this. And there's a couple of other spaces as well. And what most important for me is actually sharing these survey results back to the community, because so often we go out to our communities and say, we want to know this, tell us, but often or regularly we don't actually go back and let them know. So I'll be talking with our comms advisor next week and just working out a bit of a way to start sharing this, because there's a lot of information there, but you know, want to thank all those people that took the time to connect with us and to return a survey. So, and you know, I'll be looking hopefully down the track that these people will want to provide more information and be involved with different projects that start coming up.
And that communication of the results is probably twofold in that it thanks them for their participation, but it also makes us information aware to those of our other age demographics who, you know, might in fact be the people who can help join those dots and form those pathways.
Yeah, absolutely, and even just with our Together Hurunui network, it would be really important to share with them the different agencies so they can sort of see where things are at as well.
Vanessa?
Vanessa, the numbers, if you want to increase the numbers of the steering group, are you looking for particular kind of people?
Yes, definitely anybody who has an interest in this space. Like we have one member, she fits the demographic, but also we have others that are kind of specific to different groups.
So Councillor Armstrong is part of that.
Yes.
I'm not in the demographic, not for a wee while, but I'd be very interested in joining the steering group if you were looking for.
Yeah, fantastic. That'd be wonderful.
So,
thank you. And then the final one here is asset mapping and stock takes. So a lot of research coming my way and sort of connections. So I can actually, like I have a rough idea, but I don't know completely, you know, who is in the West Ward and the East Ward and what's happening down here in the South Ward. So to get a real picture, like I'll be talking with Natalie because she's done a lot of this already, but there'll be some spaces that wasn't really applicable for her. So just to get a really good picture on what we've got, what we're missing, that kind of thing, and that will, yeah, hopefully just form a really good picture to complement the results. And then obviously anything that comes out of the stock taking and conversations in the steering group. As you know, there is no financial budget for the space except for sort of that 10 to 12 hours of my time per week. So we'll be looking at different opportunities. Office for Seniors, they actually have a funding round each year, but that's towards the mid to late part of the year, so that I think will be good timing. And actually lotteries and RATA I think will also be a good fit. So I'll be having some conversations with those people as well, just to see, once we get a bit of a picture on some of our plans and things that we can sort of get off the mark easily, whether a funding application will be appropriate. Yes. So, yeah, that is the survey in a bit of a nutshell.
Excellent, and I'm really, really pleased that, you know, there are some plans moving forward, because it's all very well to have the information, but unless we're, you know, going to do something proactive with it, yeah, so that's really good for me. But Karen, you've got further comments?
Yes, I just wanted to, I guess, compliment Vanessa on the way that she's managed this whole thing. I think that when the steering group came together partway through the, you know, when the questionnaires, the survey was open, we came together to have a sort of a partway through look at what the results were to date. And we realised that a lot of the people that were replying to the survey were the very people that were very mobile, very engaged in their community, and often very good at the IT, you know, the devices and so on. And we thought actually there's probably part of a demographic that whose story we're missing, which is the people that are a bit isolated at home, that perhaps haven't heard about it. They're not out and about in the same way. And so the steering group gave Vanessa a lot of ideas of places that she could go to, and, you know, district nurses, medical centres, those sorts of things, and the outlying areas also were mentioned. And I really want to compliment her. She came at that with a lot of energy and pushed out a whole lot further again. And I think that that definitely broadened and deepened the types of responses we were getting and gave us a better picture than what we might otherwise have done. So yeah, I really want to compliment you on that, because we gave you a lot of work partway through, but I think, you know, it contributed to a more reflective response of the issues that people have. And, you know, you'll see it in the results there, but obviously the lack of public transport and so on throughout the district was a big issue. And particularly for Amberley, accessing medical care when it was needed was really a concern. Also accessing, excuse the pun, you know, the access home help, the local home help services and those sort of things. When a staff member goes down, can really make it a bit problematic for people to feel confident about getting their personal care and home help when they needed it and so on. So I think there were some really good things came through. I know that steering group's really motivated to have some actions come out of it and to support those actions going forward. And, you know, I feel quite excited as a member of that steering group that we've really got some kind of meaty things that we can follow through and help with very much Vanessa's lead, and her connections within her own team and in the community can help make some of these things happen, which is really good. So on that basis, I wanted to move that the information be received.
You've almost taken the words right out of my mouth. Actually, I couldn't sum it up or compliment you in a better way than what Councillor Armstrong's articulated. But I would just say that I'd endorse everything that she said, Vanessa. And you know, I said when you sat down that I knew that you had a passion for this, and you know, that's certainly shown through in your ability to be responsive and to get the maximum response out of the survey. You're willing to second that, Councillor Davies? Any further comments, questions, clarifications? Okay, then I will put the motion that the information be received with thanks. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Very proud of the work that you've done here.
Thank you, appreciate that.
And we look forward to seeing the actions that come out of the information that's been given.
A bit nerve-wracking, if I'm going to be completely honest, but it is exciting and it's going to be really lovely to give the demographic some attention. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I can see that you're committed to that as well. So we're very lucky to have you in that role, albeit only 10 to 12 hours a week.
Oh, might squeeze a bit more. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay, so with no urgent business, and we don't have a work plan on our agenda
We
today.
don't, if you want to see it though, I have been working on it, so I can email it to everyone, she can put it up on the screen if you would like to see it.
How do committee members feel about that? Would we like to receive that as part of the meeting, or are we happy to receive that via email and reflect on it in your own time?
I don't mind either way. We've got the time to look at it, I guess, here, but if anyone else is.
I don't want to put you
email.
on the spot at
No,
all.
that's okay, I was working on it yesterday, so, I'll just send it.
We've got hours to kill now.
Yeah.
No, we've got a
We've got a
2 hour
workshop.
2 to 3 hour workshop on public places.
Email to us.
I
Okay.
feel like
Okay.
very much, so I'd be quite interested to have a look, because I feel like you're
Well,
really
why
starting
don't
to
we-
nail
why don't-
quite a few
Why
things.
don't we quickly look at it?
Okay.
Let's have a quick look, because it,
Yeah,
I just raise it because it is, it's a long time till the 11th of March, although there is that possibility that we may need to call an extraordinary meeting for submissions on the walking and riding strategy.
Is it okay, Ebra, if I send it to
Yes,
you and you
of course,
share it?
yep.
Stand by.
Stream.
Yes, the meeting's still open.
Oh. Just says starting right today.
That's all good. It's amazing that we have that technology these days.
Right, I'll just do, oh no, I've got it here, do you want to talk to the screen? Okay, so, well, I saw meeting issue there that I can't seem to work out, how to fix, but reserve management plan, the intention is that that's all away now being put into the document, so the intention is that will come back to the December council meeting. If there's an opportunity to look at that before that meeting, we'll try and do that. Things just getting tight between now and that meeting.
Through the chair, quick question, Judith, and it could be a silly one. Are we able to adopt the final reserves management plan at the exclusion of a reserve if it's still contentious?
No,
We've got to hold up the whole thing?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because yeah, I don't think so. So the review of the development engineering standard and there's a plan change in there in relation to the transportation chapter. So those two are a bit tied together. The climate change sustainability strategy, so you'll be aware that James resigned, I think he left back in June, had a bit of trouble following that role, but this week we have made an offer to a new person, so they'll be looking to start, if that all works out in the middle of January, so we'll get a bit of momentum going on particularly the Amberley Beach and the proactive relocation. That's probably number one priority in that action plan, but also Gore Bay, we need to get that adaptation plan. We need to go back to that community and make some progress there.
Through the chair, Judith, we have a legislative requirement to fill that role, don't we? I mean, every council has to. Would it be under the RMA? No, we don't have to have a climate change in person.
Well, this person's called Planner Climate Adaptation, so I've
Right, so
reshaped it.
Okay.
They're using the climate change advisor. The candidates that was attracting were more quite academic. And what we are looking for is someone that's going to be able to do some work with communities on the ground.
Okay.
So I'm looking for someone with some community engagement skills to progress our coastal work, and then it's not climate adaptation as we started with the coast, but actually the next thing is looking at some of our vulnerable roads.
Okay.
And
that makes
you know,
sense.
who lives on at the end of these vulnerable roads, and what does that mean? So there's an extensive program of work. Southwood spatial plan, so that was adopted earlier in the year. I've discussed this with Nicola. I think this needs to come back to this committee to have a look at the action plan and prioritise which actions you would like to see happen first. Forestry policy has been sitting there forever. Walking and cycling, walking and riding, you've heard about that this morning. I think the last meeting, once they go to council, that was the dangerous and sanitary and effective buildings policy.
Our last meeting.
Yeah, so that's out for public consultation. There's that transport chapter. Then there's a miscellaneous plan change just to tidy up some complications with the district plan that we've discovered through implementation. And then there's a whole bunch that are in here and not in any particular order, but we have a compliance monitoring and enforcement policy, and that was last reviewed in 2010, so that's overdue for a review. Management and funding of council property policy, that's come up through council discussions. Livestock movement and cemeteries are both out for public consultation. Public places bylaw, that is workshop today. Northern Pegasus Bay bylaw, that's one that is needed to probably be one of the next ones. Keeping of animals and settlements, that's not till 2027. Did a bit of work yesterday trying to work out next steps on freedom camping. So that one, my calculation, we need to have done something with that by the 1st of September 2025.
Excuse me, through the chair, Judith, the Hammer Springs and Gore Bay alcohol ban bylaw, that far right column, is that the deadline for review, 2028?
When you make a new bylaw, you have to, the first review has to be within 5.
Right.
And then the second one is 10.
Okay.
So some of them are 5 years and some of them are 10.
Okay.
The complication with the freedom camping bylaw, which haven't been able to kind of resolve, is that our first bylaw was made under the Local Government Act and was reviewed within the 5 years. But the new bylaw was made under the Freedom Camping Act. And so it looks to me from reading that, it's another 5-year review. And if we don't review it within 2 years of when it's required to be reviewed, it automatically is revoked. So next year, but we'll work on that.
And we were waiting for the legislation changes, which have now come through and are in place.
Yes, though some recent, there's just something very recent where they're planning on extending maybe the time frame on consultation about what is a self-contained vehicle in the registration process of that. It's all quite complicated.
So you said the 1st of September 2025
Yes.
is the likely date that we will need to have moved on that.
Yeah, that's the 5+2.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, yeah, these other ones, they're not till 2028. Three Waters bylaw, and discussing that with Hamish, not a lot of point doing too much on that until we know what's happening with Water Done Well. Then these are some, suggestions, White River bylaw, but that needs an assessment as to whether the bylaw is actually the most appropriate way of addressing the perceived problem.
Sorry, Judith, again, through the chair, where are we at with that assessment? Is it something that we've yet to undertake or?
Yet to undertake.
And on as far as the work program, is that something that we'll
well down
look at next year sometime?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's well down. I don't think a bylaw is what's needed.
So it's well down based on the fact that you are unsure as to whether that will solve the issues, or is it down the track down here because we just haven't got the resources to look at it, or a combination of all that?
Both.
Okay.
And the legislative requirement around that?
No, because we don't have one.
Yeah, so that's, another reason why it's further down the track.
Yeah, we prioritise the things we've got that need to be
Yeah,
going.
sure.
And I think that this will be music to Councillor Hislop's ears, but every time we introduce something new, that just generates more work, more administration, more compliance issues, more cost. So probably, in my opinion, it's better to have what we've got working well and up to date, before we start taking on new, particularly something like that. I mean, the issues certainly are, serious, affect a relatively small number of people. So it's just it just needs an assessment as to what is the best way to address the problems there. Sure. The biodiversity chapter, this is another one that's pretty tricky. We do have money in the budget for the SNA reviews, or to implement SNAs. I think it's year 3, 4 and 5. Government has delayed the requirement for 3 years, but don't know what's sort of going to happen about that. Don't even know what's going to happen to the MPS on Indigenous biodiversity. So a lot of uncertainty in that biodiversity area. So probably not going to do too much there. Vehicle crossing bylaw, that's another one, is a bylaw the most appropriate way of addressing the perceived problem. Gambling policies overdue. That's actually relatively straightforward process though, so I think we can sort of get that one knocked over in the new year. Andrew, once he's finished his walking and riding, we'll be looking at the reserve strategy for Amberley. And if you recall, this came up through the discussion on the reserve management plan, where there was sort of these, what's the role of the Eastern Reserve, what's the role of the domain, what is the role of the neighbourhood reserves. So establish a sort of a hierarchy or a strategy around reserves and Amberley to give a bit more direction about the reserve spaces within the Amberley Township. Leasing of property policy, that one's overdue for a review. So the policy ones are just our own, where we've said we will review them, whereas bylaw is a statutory requirement to review.
Through the chair, excuse me, Judith, that reserves management for Amberley, is that in relation to kind of like a spatial planning aspect, or is it more of the managerial structure of it, or is it all encompassing, or what's the objective of that?
It's to agree that whether there is one primary reserve within the township or whether there's two.
Okay.
And then to establish, it may be that the domain in Eastern Reserve is clear that that is the home of these sports and that is the home of these sports.
Right.
And they're at that whole of township level, rather than, and then establish these sort of neighbourhood reserves.
Right.
And then what should be in the neighbourhood reserve.
So what's covered and what isn't covered and what we've got room for.
Yeah, so you know, one of the things that we've been hearing about Amberley is not enough playgrounds.
Yeah.
So then you would say, we'd prioritise your playgrounds, and you would say these reserves will have a playground for this age.
Perfect.
So a bit more structure, I suppose. And that helps deal with when you've got a strategy, when there's requests or you're looking to, in the LTP, spend money, you've already got a strategy that says, well, this is our next priority to establish a playground here for this age group.
Okay. And when can we roughly expect Andrew to come back with?
He'll start that work in the new year after the walking and riding strategy.
Excellent, thank you.
Because that was something that I did come up to through the reserve management plan process. Drones, I mean, we seem to have, when you start seeing the list, we seem to have a policy for everything, just about sneezing. So yeah, every time there's a bit of a problem, we think, oh, we'll just make a new policy. but, which is lovely, but, there is
Back to
policies,
work stream.
they ought to be reviewed.
Do we have a common sense policy going on?
I could add
Thinking
that.
policy?
I think you could head that committee, Dave.
Only sponsored by councillor himself.
Tolerance committee, I can think of a whole.
And, you know, some of these things you probably don't even know exist, so we do have a public toilet policy, and that was, so that was our original strategy in 1998, which was reviewed in 2017. And it could be just sort of, you know, bringing it, highlighting it again, you reviewing it and going, it's fine.
Through the chair, the reserves funding policy, what's the status with that, Judith? Is that
Yeah, that's one that needs someone to, and, yeah,
Scrub it out.
that's one that needs to be looked at.
I mean, is that covered by other policies? Is that redundant, or is that something that needs to be?
I need to look it up.
Okay, no, thank you. Is that on our website if I want to have a look at it?
Yep, should be. Easter Sunday shop trading, it's interesting that that was a 5-year review. And that might be one that just comes back and you have a look at it and you're really happy with it, and we can just say, we'll review it. I mean, you can say, it might be we just say, well, we'll review it in 10 years, and if an issue arises, you can always bring forward the review, but when you say you're going to review it in 5, you really need to do it. So I think we need to think a little bit more carefully about some of these review dates, because they seem to come around. There's sort of been mutterings about reviewing the tree management policy. That's a huge piece of work. So that's probably a bit lower down the priority list. Asbestos risk management, I found that one, which had a 5-year review on it as well. So that's next year. Asset management was another one I found, so need to have a look at that. Oh, and the disposal of assets one. We had a 3-year review on that, so that one's come around quick as well. So that are all the things that I've identified, and yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Thanks for that update, Judith. It sounds like there's a lot on that work plan, and I understand the prioritisation. And it seems like there are a few there though that we could perhaps have a quick look at and tick them off. Yeah. But any questions or discussion on the work plan? So thank you for taking us through that, Evelyn.
That's right.
Well
Yeah,
done.
apologies for not getting it on the agenda in time. Just couldn't
Not a problem.
prioritise it.
Not a problem. You know that there is lots on. Okay, well with that then I think I will close the meeting, and we'll see everybody in March unless we have that extraordinary meeting beforehand.